Welcome to the deep dive. So, if you've ever felt a bit lost, wondering, okay, should I focus on losing fat or building muscle? Or, like, can I somehow do both at the same time? You're definitely not alone.
Hmm.
It feels like there's just a ton of conflicting advice flying around.
Oh, absolutely. It can be really confusing.
So, we're here today to try and cut through some of that noise.
Exactly. Our mission today is really to bring some clarity to this whole idea of body recomposition. So whether your main aim is to lose some body fat or maybe gain some muscle definition, or just understand how these things might actually work together to, reshape your physique, we're going to unpack the core ideas.
Right. And to do that, we've got a good mix of sources. We'll be looking at some established fitness guidelines, sort of the fundamentals of exercise, and also some articles that dive specifically into body recomposition itself, strategies, the science behind it.
Yeah, it's about getting both perspectives, the why and the how, so you can make smarter choices for yourself.
Okay, sounds good. Let's get into it.
Great. So maybe let's start with the basics. What do we even mean by activity? Our sources make a point that it's, well, broader than just your planned gym sessions.
Right, it's any movement that uses energy, yeah. Like
Yeah.
walking around, fidgeting, plus your actual workouts.
Precisely. And when we do talk about planned exercise, the World Health Organization, which our sources mention, gives some useful targets.
Yeah, I saw that. They recommend for adults, 150 to 300 minutes of moderate activity a week.
That's it. Or if you're doing more intense stuff, 75 to 150 minutes. It's a range, obviously, but it kind of underlines that regular movement needs to be part of the picture.
Definitely.
And within that exercise, you can think about different types depending on your goals. Like aerobic exercise, great for your heart, helps manage body fat.
Okay.
Then you got resistance training.
Yep.
That's your key for building strength and, muscle size.
Lifting weights, push-ups, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And don't forget stretching. So important for flexibility, keeping your joints moving well.
Yeah, often overlooked, but really crucial. One source mentioned a handy framework, the FITTE principle, FITTE.
IS 50E. Frequency, intensity, type, time. And the last E is enjoyment.
Which is so important. If you don't like it, you won't stick with it.
Right,
anyways. Yeah.
Consistency is king, and enjoyment drives consistency.
Makes sense.
And then thinking about structuring an actual workout session, there's a general pattern that's recommended. Start with a warm-up.
Getting the body ready, like joint rotations, maybe some dynamic stretches.
It's perfect. Then you get into the main event, your cardio, or your strength work, or flexibility, whatever the focus is for that day.
Okay.
And then, importantly, finish with a cool down. Some static stretches, maybe a bit of light walking, helps the body start that recovery process.
Got it. And just to give people concrete ideas, sources mention things like running, cycling for cardio,
Yep.
weightlifting, body weight stuff like push-ups for strength,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe yoga for flexibility.
Mm-hmm. Those are great examples. So that kind of covers the activity side. Now, let's shift gears and talk about what's actually happening inside our bodies. The composition aspect. This is where it gets really interesting for people's goals.
Yeah, let's define that. Body composition. What is it exactly?
So simply put, it's the ratio of your fat mass compared to your lean mass. And lean mass is basically everything else: muscle, bone, water, organs.
Okay, so fat versus not fat, essentially.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And understanding that ratio leads us straight into this idea of body recomposition.
Right. And let's be super clear here. Body recomposition or recomp isn't just about weight loss, is it?
No, definitely not. It's the process of actively changing that ratio. So the goal is to lower your body fat while at the same time either keeping the muscle you have or even building more.
So your weight on the scale might not actually drop much. It could even go up.
Exactly. That's a really key point. Muscle is denser than fat, takes up less space. So you might stay the same weight or gain a little, but look leaner and more toned.
So focusing just on the scale can be misleading if recomposition is the goal.
Totally misleading. You really want to pay attention to other things. How do your clothes fit?
Yeah,
Are you seeing more muscle definition? How do you feel? Those are better indicators.
good point. And it sounds like this isn't a quick fix. The sources seem to emphasize that.
Oh, absolutely not. Body recomposition is a long game. It takes patience, consistency, dedication. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts. How does it actually work? What does the science say we need?
Well, at its heart, it boils down to a few key things happening at once. To lose the fat, you need two main drivers. Cardiovascular exercise helps burn calories, and you need a calorie deficit.
Meaning you're burning more calories than you eat?
Correct. That deficit is fundamental for fat loss.
Yes.
Then, for the muscle building part, you absolutely need resistance training to stimulate the muscles.
You got to challenge them.
You got to challenge them. And you need enough protein in your diet to actually build and repair that muscle tissue.
Okay, let's dig into those a bit more. Fat loss first. That calorie deficit seems like that came up again and again.
It's non-negotiable for fat loss, really. And the sources suggest the best way to achieve this sustainably is usually combining both cardio and resistance training with a healthy, balanced diet.
Not just extreme calorie cutting.
No, exactly. We're talking a moderate, manageable deficit.
Yeah.
Crash dieting often backfires. You can lose muscle too.
Right. Okay, so that's fat loss. What about the muscle gain side? You mentioned resistance training is key.
It's essential.
Mhm.
Muscles don't just grow on their own. They need that stimulus, that challenge from working against resistance weights, bands, your body weight, whatever it is. Progressive challenge over time.
And the fuel. You need extra calories for muscle growth generally.
Generally, yes. Building new tissue requires energy, so a slight calorie surplus is often recommended. Maybe not huge, but a little extra fuel.
And protein. Seems critical.
Absolutely vital. Protein provides the building blocks amino acids that your body uses to repair the micro tears in your muscles caused by training, and then build them back bigger and stronger.
Okay. Now, this is interesting. Some research mentioned in the sources suggests that a high-protein diet might actually help with doing both at the same time, losing fat and gaining muscle even in a deficit.
Yeah, that's a fascinating area. The idea is that getting plenty of protein while you're in a calorie deficit helps preserve the muscle you already have. Your body's less likely to break down muscle for energy if it has enough protein coming in.
So it prioritizes burning fat instead.
That's the theory, and there's some good evidence for it. It helps spare the muscle. And for people already doing strength training, just bumping up their protein and focusing on lifting heavy can significantly improve their body composition, even without major diet overhaul sometimes.
Okay, that's really useful. This leads nicely into a specific strategy one source brought up, calorie cycling. Now, from your perspective as a weight management coach, how does that work? Who's it good for?
Right, calorie cycling. It's basically a way to tailor your calorie and macronutrient intake based on what you're doing each day, your activity level.
Okay.
So the first step is figuring out your maintenance calories. That's roughly how many calories you burn on a typical day without structured exercise. There are calculators, or you can work with someone to estimate this.
Got your baseline. Then what? How do you adjust?
Okay, so on days you do mainly cardio, the idea is to eat around that maintenance level. Maybe slightly under, creating a small deficit for fat loss, but not so low that you compromise recovery or muscle.
Makes sense. And strength training days.
On days you hit the weights, especially for, say, 30 minutes or more, you'd aim for a surplus, meaning 5% to 15% above your maintenance calories.
Yeah.
And crucially, you focus on getting plenty of protein on those days to fuel muscle repair and growth.
Okay, surplus and protein on lifting days. What about rest days?
Rest days are typically when you'd aim for a slight deficit again, maybe 5% to 10% below maintenance. The thinking is this encourages your body to tap into fat stores when demands aren't as high.
So it's like directing traffic, sending calories where they're needed most each day.
That's a great way to put it. As the source explained, your body has choices for incoming calories: immediate energy, muscle repair, or fat storage. Calorie cycling tries to nudge those calories towards muscle repair on training days and encourage fat burning on the other days.
Interesting strategy. Requires a bit of planning, though.
It does, yes.
Yeah.
It's maybe not for absolute beginners, but can be effective for those wanting to optimize recomposition.
Okay, so thinking about that coaching hat again, let's boil this down. What are some really clear, actionable takeaways for listeners, depending on their main goal? Let's start with someone focused primarily on fat loss.
Right. So if fat loss is your number one priority, the main play is creating that consistent calorie deficit we talked about. Combine regular cardio, aiming for those WHO minutes with resistance training, maybe 2-3 times a week. That weight training is key to hold on to muscle while you lose fat.
And nutrition.
Focus on nutrient-dense whole foods, plenty of vegetables, lean proteins, manage your overall calorie intake, and make sure protein is adequate to support that muscle preservation.
Okay. Now, what about someone whose main goal is building muscle, getting stronger, bigger?
For muscle gain, the spotlight is really on progressive overload in your resistance training. Again, 2-3 sessions, minimum, maybe more, focusing on gradually increasing the weight, reps, or difficulty over time. You have to keep challenging the muscles.
And the diet.
You'll generally need that moderate calorie surplus, and consistent, adequate protein intake is critical. Spreading that protein out across your meals throughout the day seems to be beneficial for maximizing muscle protein synthesis.
Got it. And then for the listeners really keen on that dual goal body recomposition, lose fat, gain muscle together.
Okay, for recomp, it demands a really balanced strategic approach. Consistent resistance training is non-negotiable, at least twice a week, again with that focus on progression. Add in some moderate cardio, and nutrition is absolutely central.
This is where calorie cycling might come in.
It could, yes, or at least maintaining a very high protein intake, especially timed around your workouts, perhaps while eating closer to maintenance calories overall, or a very slight deficit surplus depending on the day. It's more nuanced.
Okay. And regardless of the specific goal, fat loss, muscle gain, recomping, are there any universal nutrition tips that stand out from the sources?
Definitely. A foundation built on whole, minimally processed foods is always the best bet. Lean proteins are your friend sweets.
Chicken, turkey, fish, lean beef, eggs, lentils, cottage cheese.
The usual suspects.
Exactly. Plus, healthy fats, complex carbs for energy. And that adequate protein intake is crucial whether you're cutting calories to save muscle or in a surplus to build muscle.
And spreading it out through the day.
Yeah, aiming for protein at most meals seems to be a good strategy for keeping muscle synthesis ticking over.
We've hit exercise and nutrition hard. What about recovery? Often gets pushed aside. Huge mistake to push it aside. Recovery is absolutely fundamental. The sources really stress this. Rest days aren't lazy days. They're when the magic happens. Muscle repair, reducing inflammation, topping up energy levels.
And sleep.
Sleep is probably the ultimate recovery tool. Aiming for 7 to 9 hours a night is standard advice, but if you're training hard, you might even need more. That's when crucial cellular repair and hormone regulation happens. You can't shortcut sleep and expect optimal results.
That's such an important reminder. Okay, these are some really solid strategies. Now, thinking about the real world, applying this stuff, what are some common hurdles or considerations people should keep in mind from your coaching experience?
Yeah, good question. One thing is that being super rigid, like only fat loss now, only muscle gain later, might not always be practical or even desirable for everyone.
Life gets in the way sometimes.
Exactly. So sometimes a more cyclical approach works well. You might have a phase focused more on fat loss, then switch to a phase prioritizing muscle gain, maybe followed by a maintenance phase. It can be more sustainable.
More adaptable.
Right. Also, it's worth remembering that body recomposition, that's a simultaneous fat loss and muscle gain, tends to be, well, easier or faster for beginners or people coming back after a long break.
More newbie gains.
Kind of, yeah. If you're already pretty fit and training consistently, making significant changes in both directions at the same time gets slower and harder. Not impossible, but requires more precision.
So patience is key, especially for experienced folks.
Absolutely. And tracking progress beyond just the scale is vital for everyone. Use a tape measure, notice how clothes fit, take progress photos. Those tell a richer story. And be ready to adjust your plan based on how your body responds.
And underlying all of this is?
Consistency. Has to be consistency. In your training, in your nutrition. That's the secret sauce, really.
Any other practical pointers from the sources?
Yeah, a few important ones. If you have health issues or injuries, always check with a doctor or physio before starting something new. Train at the right intensity for you and increase it gradually. Don't skip warm-ups or cool-downs. They help prevent injuries.
Good technique too, right?
Essential. Proper form is crucial. Using the right equipment, wearing suitable clothes. Also, try to train all major muscle groups over the week, plan your workouts logically, and make sure you're fueling properly, enough energy, good nutrition, stay hydrated. Think about electrolytes if you're sweating a lot. It's a whole body holistic thing.
It really is. Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive today, it feels like the big takeaway is understanding that fundamental split. You need an energy deficit for fat loss, generally an energy surplus for significant muscle gain.
That's the core principle.
And body recomposition, that goal of doing both, is possible but requires a really smart, balanced strategy. It heavily relies on consistent resistance training, some cardio, and very strategic nutrition, often meaning high protein, maybe using techniques like calorie cycling.
Exactly. It's about integrating all those pieces effectively.
So, the final thought for you listening. Take a moment to consider where you are right now with your body composition and what your main goal truly is. How could you start applying these principles we've talked about? Maybe it's focusing on protein. Maybe it's structuring your training differently. Maybe exploring calorie timing.
Yeah, ask yourself honestly. Based on your needs, your lifestyle, your fitness level right now, does focusing primarily on fat loss make the most sense? Or is it muscle gain? Or are you in a place where attempting that more integrated body recomposition approach feels right? answering that is your first step towards making informed choices and moving towards the physique you want.